Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. Hope everybody's doing well. So, disclaimer for everybody, and also for anybody who tunes in during the replay. Um, we are just simply going to throw out some methods of preservation that I found that are in addition to the usual. But the bottom line is you need to do your own research. You shouldn't just watch a YouTube video and decide that's what you're going to do. So, do your own research, have some knowledge in the area of food preservation before you decide to start doing something different. But there are some other ways, even though they may not be approved, there are some other ways that people have done things and they've done well. It depends on the person whether you would do it or not. So, anyway, so that being said, hey, Barb's Country Home, and Little Frenchie in Big Texas. Hello, Lisa Clovey. Hello. Hey, Gwen Broke Cowgirl. Hey, Craig. Hope you're doing well. So, just want to talk about a bunch of them, and one of the things I did was I quickly Googled food preservation because a lot of us are in food preservation mode, right? Gwen doesn't know what she learned though. You learn that stuff kind of comes out of the jar. That's what you learned. Hey Sparkman, how are you? Hope you're doing well. So yeah, so again, we're going to talk about some food preservation methods. I am not an expert. I will just tell you that some of them intrigue me, even though I've not done them. And I would need to do more research to figure it out. But I wanted to share with what came up on the web. And, we all know that sometimes things on the web are wrong, but I do know that some of this is actually stuff people do. I know it's hard for you to see. I made the font as big as I could. Um, so hey Annie, hope you're doing well, our urban homestead. Annie, Annette, I get confused. I see the Annie come up, but I know you're Annette, and I never know which one you prefer to be called. So I just want to double check. Um, I'm just looking at the comments. And I think that when we talk about food preservation, a lot of the oh, awesome, Gwen. I'm glad to hear. Yeah, I mean, I've had that too. You know the deal. You got to check it and make sure it stays sealed, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. Um, so obviously we all hear about Annie is fine. Thank you, Annie. I will work on that. I appreciate it. Hey, Blue, how are you? Um, so again, we're talking about things. It's different in the UK, it's different in the US, it's different places that we go, right? There's all these different rules, or there are no rules, and then people get kind of crazy back and forth. I know Blue has had some experience with that. We're not going to get into the craziness of it. But let's talk canning, right? Everybody knows about canning, so we're going to go back to that one. Then there's freezing, which we've been doing a lot of blanching and freezing because we prefer frozen vegetables a lot of the time. We don't like canned vegetables as much. Um, then there's pickling, right? We all know about pickling, and fermentation is another one. Fermentation. I'm sure you've all heard all of these terms. And I'm just going to go here. Then there's dehydrating and freeze drying. A lot of people have heard of that too. So we're going to go to these bottom two first because I think it's interesting. And so you've got smoking is a method of food preservation that involves exposing food to smoke from burning plant materials such as wood, and this method is commonly used for meats and fish that have undergone curing. Think bacon. So I'm sure a lot of you know about smoking as well. How about salting? I've seen a lot on salting lately. You know, a lot of people salt fish, they salt eggs. I've seen people salt eggs. River Rat, hello. I can see you chatting. I don't know what you did, but you figured it out. Great job. Blue does salting. Awesome. What are some of the things you salt, Blue? I'd love to know. I know you do fish and you probably do eggs, but I'm sure there's something else you can do. So salting is just basically covering the food with salt. I've never tried it. I don't know much about it. I've just seen a lot about it. Again, I'm not going to talk about if it's highly recommended or not, because the bottom line is that's for you to decide. Fish mostly, but yeah, meat. Okay. So would you salt, say, when you say meat, would you salt any kind of meat like beef, pork? Yeah, salted pork. Beef, would you salt chicken? Or are there certain limitations to that? If you know, which I'm sure you do. Hey, Nancy, our treasured home. Good to see you. Spartman says, my mom has talked about salted pork and hams back when she was growing up on the farm. That makes sense. A lot of people did salting back then. And I think that's the reason why we have to entertain some ideas and not just jump into things. It's really, find out if it's going to work for you, but you still have to do it safely. Beef and pork for the most part, really. Sometimes game if I'm lucky enough to get it. Ooh, interesting on the game meat. Interesting on the game meat. Cool. So, salting and jerky was about the only way of preserving meat way back when. Yep, absolutely, Gwen. Absolutely. And that's why I say some of these methods, they may not be approved now. I'm just going to throw this out there. The same agency that did all the testing, and I am not a rebel canner. I'm not a willy-nilly person because I believe in food safety. I live with a germaphobe. So, but I have an issue with the agency that tested all the recipes, and then they're the same ones approving meat that is not real. So I'll leave it at that. Hey, Rhonda, good to see you. Little Bit of Everything Homestead. Everybody go check out Little Bit of Everything Homestead, which is Rhonda. She has been pumping out videos like none other. Hey, Almost a Green Acre, good to see you. Thanks for coming by. Check out Almost a Green Acre, too. I prefer Annie to me. It sounds a lot softer than Annette. Okay, you got it. Good to meet you, Krista. Thank you. Krista is Almost a Green Acre. Welcome, welcome. So again, just a reminder, we're going over food preservation techniques. Don't say Lisa at Yogi Hollow Farm told me to do unapproved stuff. I don't want to hear it. This is simply a conversation about different food preservation methods, and some of them may not be approved. Some of them may be amazing, but I'm not a food expert, okay? So keep that in mind. I'm not saying that again because it's too much. But I know how it goes. You have to say it. So let me go back. So let's go back to canning. How does that sound for you guys? Oops, I have to go to the, and I just did this so I would have a list in front of me, which would make it easier for me to talk about. And behave yourself, Anne, at Little Frenchie in Big Texas. It's not my fault. But you know how it is. Oh my gosh, you know how it is these days. My goodness. Don't they salt fish in Alaska? I know they can it too. Yeah, they do salt it in Alaska. Absolutely. Yep, Krista, I do what works for me. So canning. So canning in the United States is all about approved recipes, right? Then there's the rebel canning movement. Then there's folks outside of the United States who don't have all of the rules and regulations, right? They reuse jars and everything. Now, keep in mind, whether you believe in it or not, food safety still applies. Food safety will always apply. You need sterile jars. You need to have, jars that are clean and all of that jazz. It's not a willy-nilly process, even when you're doing things differently. You can salt fish here on the East Coast of Canada, salt fish all the time. Nice. Nice. So how many of you here, you can't use the same jar if you've sanitized it? Yes, you can use it if you've sanitized it. In the United States, it's recommended that you use a specific canning jar. Oh, you think she meant lids. Yeah, okay, yeah. Canning jars, I read something interesting. Oh, no worries, Krista. No worries at all. I read something really interesting on reusing jars. And maybe Blue can speak to this or somebody else who is here. But I read that jars that have no writing in the glass are more likely to break under, certain circumstances versus jars that have writing in the glass. So like Classico. Yeah, so like if you have all right, let me give you an example, Blue. Hold on, I'm going to take the screen down. Okay, so this jar is smooth. It's like a mayo jar, right? It's a lotion jar, but it's like a mayo jar and it has no writing in the glass. Then you have a jar. Oh, hold on. Good thing I use canning jars for buttons. This is a canning jar, but it doesn't have to be. But if you see this canning jar, how it has decoration in the glass, and some of them may say ball. I'm trying to. So that was the thing that I read, was that they were better off being used because they have glass that it can withstand it. But Blue is saying none of our jars here, excuse me, none of our jars here, whether they are from stores or we buy them for bottling, have any writing on them unless they're fancy. Okay. Gwen says some of my canning jars that were bought new don't have writing in the glass. Do they have writing on the bottom? Because I know some of my new ones have writing on the bottom. Barb said thicker glass. Rhonda says, I reuse my jars when water bathing. Pickle jars and lids, jam jars with lids, as long as the top still has a pop to it. All are usually clear jars. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Wow, nothing on them, Gwen. That's interesting. Yeah, and most of mine have some kind of writing on them, and that's what the point was, exactly what you said, probably thicker with writing. They are. That was the thing that I read. Of course, nowadays, like I said, you got to do your own research, right? Because just because I saw it doesn't mean someone posted a reel on it, doesn't mean it's true. But it was just interesting to me. I know a lot of people like to use, and I want to say it's a French jam or jelly or preserves, because I know I bought a current one. And they have that plaid top. And a lot of people love using those for freezing and stuff like that. Krista said, I just bought some at Costco, best price in town at $12.99, and they have writing on them. Awesome. Awesome. And I just bought some here which was actually a really good deal for us, which was Fleet Farm, and I got wide mouth pints, 2 cases. They were $12.99 each. Yeah, I'm gonna look up the name, Anne, and see if that's it. That is it, Anne. Their their jars are really great. I know somebody who freezes in them, loves them, and I know people who can in them. I have not, but I missed some of the conversation. Let me go back. Blue said all jars with food in the store have already gone through a water bathing process, so they're safe to reuse. So we do a lot of that and buy new lids once the lids are too old. Gotcha. See, it's like a whole different world over in the UK from what you're taught here, right? It's a different world when you get out of the United States. And so, like I said, I'm not saying one is bad or not. It's just stuff to think about. Gwen says she reuses pickle jars for pickles, pizza sauce jars for jalapenos, tomato juice, but I don't pressure can in them. That makes sense. Maybe I'm forgetting that part. Maybe it was for pressure canning. I thought it was all canning, but maybe I've missed that detail. Quite possible with me. Some store jars have gone through pressure canning too, spaghetti sauce with meat, for example. Yeah. You never see canning jars at your Costco? Huh. That's interesting, Anne. I don't go to store, Costco. We have Sam's here. I don't go to Costco, but Sam's, I don't go there often enough to know. But I happen to be at Fleet Farm because I'm always getting feed, and then I stop in the canning aisle. Crystal King and hold 34 ounces, 1 liter, I guess. Gotcha. Yeah, waste not, want not. Even though I don't use jars for canning, I save them because we'll put dehydrated stuff in there and everything. So, Barb, what do you pay for your jars? Like say wide mouth pints over at Walmart. I'm just curious. I'm in Walmart for groceries, and then I hate being there. Fleet Farm, I love walking around. Oh, wow. Oh, I can't wait to see your next video, Gwen. I have bought some at Walmart, but a lot of mine I got brand new in the case, either at Fleet Farm or Walmart, or actually I got a ton on Marketplace. I got so many on Marketplace that were brand new in the case that they were so cheap. $17. Wow. That's what we pay at our local hardware store, 17 to 19. And so today when I saw them on sale for $12.99, I went with it. But I also had a friend give me an absolute ton of jars. And so I've just been buying jars and lids. Excuse me, lids and bands. Absolutely. So I take it everybody here is, pressure canned and or has heard of it, pressure canning and water bath, right? So water bath is for high acidic foods, basically. Pressure canning is for low acidic foods. That's the general. Yeah, $12.99 is an amazing deal. When I got the ones off of Marketplace, I had to get 12 to 14 cases. They were about 50 cents a jar, brand new. It was awesome. You use what for everything, Blue? Water bath or pressure? It sounds like you guys do one method, all water bath, I'm assuming. Good night, Anne. Thanks for coming by. Give the girls a hug. They're getting so big. $12.99 for a case of 12 wide mouth pint jars. I've water bathed and haven't pressure can yet, but everyone keeps telling me to use my Instapot as a pressure canner for preserves. I haven't even used it for anything yet. I've heard that too, and then I've heard it's not a good idea, so I really don't know. I have an electric canner that I use for small batches, and it will pressure can or it will water bath can, a small batch, which works for me. Yep, pretty much, or open kettle for jams, jellies, and pickles. Gotcha. Yep. Open kettle's another one. Yep. Yeah, I have the Nesco canner. It also was under the name Carry. I love it for small batches. And I have an old electric stove, and quite honestly, I think the canner is more efficient than doing it on the stove. But when I have a large batch, I do water bath on the stove or pressure. How about pickling? Does anybody do pickling here of things? Right? Because we talked about canning. How about pickling? I did refrigerator pickles. I made a bunch of them this year. I have um, infused vinegar, so I'm going to say that's in the pickling category. When we had all those strawberry tops, we put them in the vinegar, put a bunch in the vinegar, and um, made vinegar out of it. I also took chive blossoms and put them in vinegar and made chive blossom vinegar. I do pickling, but not like you guys do. Well, Blue, what do you do? Barb says I pickled cucumbers. Yep, I did too. That's awesome. Krista said she's pickled also. I know Gwen, there's a dish that Gwen's husband likes, and I think it's Gardenera or something like that with the cauliflower and everything. I think that's a pickling dish. Infused red and white wine vinegar and infused balsamic vinegar. Nice. Interesting. How about fermentation? No worries. Thanks, Rhonda. Have a great evening. Good to see you, my friend. Go Packers, go. I'll be pickling some beets shortly, and if I ever get my hot peppers to grow, I'd like to ferment them. I'm going to take this down for a minute. You guys really confuse us with the need to refrigerate pickles or water bath them. We don't do that. The vinegar is the preservative, so we just put them on the shelf. Fascinating. Well, it's ingrained in us from a young age that we need to follow the rules here in the US, Blue. And again, and I don't know if you were here when I said it earlier, but it's by the same agency that's allowing fake meat. So, not that I'm a proponent of being unsafe. There's still food safety, but I have issues sometimes. I do a lot of fermenting. Yes, I know you do a lot of fermenting. In fact, when I first connected to you, I remember you doing all the fermenting. Hey, Sarah, happy Friday, a homesteading hustle. My grandparents always used vinegar too and still water bath them for sealing. Yep. Yeah, that's what I know. That's what I know. I like fridge pickles, and I'll tell you why. They don't bother me going on the fridge. I like them in the fridge because they're cold, and that's what I want. I want a cold, crisp pickle. You know what I mean? So that doesn't bother me. Refrigerator Pickles are so easy. You know, you are a dehydrating fool, Barb. You are. Why don't we go to dehydrating since Barb is a dehydrating fool? I have dehydrated a lot of stuff too. Now that I have the freeze dryer, I admit I do that more, but when I have an overflow, I will dehydrate. But some of the things that you guys dehydrate, what do you guys dehydrate? I like to dehydrate herbs, flower petals for infusing in oil for soap, and also tomato skins. Barb is all about the peppers. Peppers, 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 she said. Peppers, peppers, peppers. She likes doing peppers, 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 and pepper powder. I feel like it's speak for her there. Right, Barb? You like that pepper powder. Paprika, hot pepper, powder, all that stuff. Barb's got a nice dehydrator too. She's got a pretty decent one. I think Gwen has one that's pretty big too. Gwen can fit yogurt in hers. Barb, have you done yogurt in yours? Mine is not large enough or set up to do yogurt. Gosh, I wish it was, but it's not like I have a dairy animal, so. See, I told you, Barb with the pepper powder. She loves that pepper powder. No yogurt. Okay. Yeah, it's like, but I love the racks in your dehydrator. They're really sturdy. Mine is an older one and I'm just using it. If I can get them to grow past these cold night temps, I'll dehydrate some peppers to use as a rub or a powder. That's awesome. That's awesome. I dehydrated a lot more before I had the freeze dryer. And the reason why was we would buy a produce box. And the produce box from our bulk order would come with whatever was in the box. You didn't get to choose. And when you get whatever comes in the box, sometimes you would get things that you weren't going to use right away, like fennel. And so I dehydrated it. Or there were a ton of apples that we weren't going to eat through, and we would dehydrate them. And that was what I would keep doing. If I had a cow, I would make yogurt. Yeah, me too. I think what it is this. Our kitchens are around a third of the size of yours and about the size of some of your pantry cupboards. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a big difference between us. Although you haven't seen some of my kitchens, Blue. We've never had a large kitchen. Hey, Carla, living a rogue life. Good to see you, my friend. Preserving russet potatoes without a freeze dryer or dehydrator. Mashed potatoes and put them in Ziplocs and seal them and lay them flat. You can also if you wanted to do French fries, I can email you after this. I have a freezer book on potatoes. But you can I think you can parboil and then vac seal them. Or you can can them. You can definitely can them too. I hope that helps. So we still do traditional methods because we don't have fridge storage. Got it. Yep, gotcha. Or cellars unless you live far away from a water source, as our water table is very close to the top. Makes sense. Hey, Xander. Good to see you. Hey, Heather, Milk and Honey Heritage Farms. And oh, please, never late, Heather. Krista says, I also infuse the goldenrod in olive oil to make some soap and body butter. Ooh, nice. I like to do calendula. Heather is stalking me. I'm sure Xander meant stalking, but I had to give a hard time. Heather, stop stalking Xander. It's fun. Heather is too funny. Or you can dehydrate the potatoes and turn them into flakes when you go to use just rehydrate for mashed potatoes. Yep. I have a pressure canner, would like info on vacuum seal for the freezer. Okay, Carla, I will email you after the live a picture out of the book that I have, okay? Hey, love the land. Hope you're doing well, Marty. Hey, Tiffany, Canadian Family Life. He's doing good. He's doing good, Carla. Carla asked how Diesel was doing, which is our dog, and he's doing good. He's 10. He's on a medication now that seems to be helping his mobility. Freeze dryer tips, Heather, for what? For potatoes? Or just in general? Did you get a freeze dryer, Heather? All right, let me just get this comment off. So the manager is still managing. He is. He is, Spartman. He's just a little slow, but he's doing good. Ooh, Heather got a freeze dryer. Well, Heather, you have my email. Any questions, just let me know. Like, I just give me an idea of what you want to know. I don't do candy, I'll tell you that right now. A lot of people say things explode when they do candy. I just don't do it because I want food. Heather, very exciting. Congratulations, Heather. I love doing my potatoes in the freeze dryer. Tomorrow I'm going to be doing dill heads and basil in my freeze dryer. Yep. I know, Spartman. I had to save up for mine. I know that you can get refurbished ones, and they say that they come with the same warranty, and you can get them a lot cheaper than the new. I love mine. The only time I don't like to run mine is when it's hot out, and that's because we don't have air conditioning in throughout the house, like central AC. So it really heats up the house. And then with traffic, with windows open and traffic and that thing running, I don't want to hear it. It's bothersome. Otherwise, I love it. No complaints. But it's been really cool. So freeze dryer, you know, there's home freeze drying and then there's professional kitchen freeze drying. The home freeze drying is, basically removes all the moisture, and it tends to intensify the salt flavor and intensify the sugar flavor, is what people say. I will say freeze dried pineapple is to die for. I do know that using a lower salt content is better because, for example, I did enchilada sauce that was not a low salt version. And when I rehydrated it or reconstituted it, it was salty. The same thing with the Manwich Sloppy Joe sauce. So I prefer to do things like leftovers or do things that I've made. That way there's more control over the salt content. Can you guys hear me? Gwen says she has no sound. Can you guys hear me? Okay, everybody. Xander says I hear okay. All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, folks. Okay, good. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, My dehydrator didn't do a great job with the zucchini, so I ended up wet freezing them and shredded and then froze. I'm going to turn about 50 plus pounds of zucchini into zesty zucchini relish. That's awesome. It's a lot of stuff. I have not made salsa with zucchini, but I made mock pineapple the other day with zucchini, and I am shocked it tastes like pineapple. Shocked. Hey, welcome to my Cape Cod life. Congratulations, Carla. That's awesome. Congratulations. Carla is retiring next week. You go, girl. Awesome, awesome. Gwyneth Bro Cowgirl, try coming out of the live and killing your app and then going right back in. That's awesome, Carla. Congratulations. I'm going to try making apple pie filling with zucchini. I think that would be really good. I got 10 big jars of plum sauce canned, got the rest in the dehydrator for fruit leather. Barb said you can put whatever you want in your salsa, including pepper powder, she'll tell you. I love Barb. Everybody's congratulating Carla. That's so cool. It is proper bonkers how that pineapple, quote unquote, works. And if you then use those pieces and put them in the dehydrator, it works like dried pineapple. I can imagine. I am blown away. Blown away. Lisa Clovey does a great job, Krista. Thank you. She puts all the links up. Plum sauce is a great idea. Really a great idea. Salsa is the best. It cures everything. Yeah. I think that about ice cream. I may have to put my zucchini pineapple on topping on there. Oh gosh, yeah. It is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Blue had sent me a recipe for apple pie filling. I'm going to try that. So I have a couple of courgettes, if you will, which is what they call zucchini in the UK, and I think also in Australia. And so we are letting a couple get really big so I can make some zucchini apple pie filling. I don't blame you, Carla. I don't blame you. That's a long time. You go, girl. Gwen, welcome back. I'm glad you could come back and you were able to get back here, no problem, and hear us. Courgette is the name here because we are closer to France than Italy. Interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, the way I'm thinking about it is the pineapple was amazing when I tasted it before it was canned. So I'm thinking if I let them get bigger than what they are, because we like them small, so we just, pick them, harvest them small. But what we're thinking of doing is letting them get larger, and I'll, skin them and seed them, and then I'll be able to cut them like apple slices and put them in the jar. And then by the time they're canned, given our elevation, they'll be good and soft. So, how is our well stuff? Well, let me tell you, Heather, we still have no water. The well driller had a equipment issue. I can't remember if I said that last week. And he was waiting on parts, and he's still not here. So, lordy, 4 weeks in, here we are. Aussies tend to call them zucchini because a lot of green grocers are owned by Italians. Aha, interesting. I have canned okra for frying. It isn't an approved thing, but it worked great. Interesting. I know, Heather. Thank you for asking. That's interesting. I don't do a lot of things. We were looking at the case prices of the local produce because you guys know I'm all about the local produce too. We haven't done a lot of that this year, and it's not just because the garden is growing well. It's because the prices of the cases compared to last year are astronomical. I saw tonight it was a 25-pound case of tomatoes for $75. That's a lot of money. We didn't spend that last year at all for these big, beautiful tomatoes. And so we're kind of like, the garden is doing good. Maybe this year we need to lay off. And if the garden does bad, then you know what I mean? We're just trying to figure things out. But 25-pound case of tomatoes for $75. Now, that's not from our bulk order. That's at the farmer's market in Rapid City. Somebody advertised, "Hey, Rochelle Brampton Gardner, hope you're doing well." But I think last year we paid $40-something for tomatoes, and or $50-something. And we just, everything has gone up like $30, it looks like. And so that's just one of those things where we're like, I don't know. And here's the thing, we use a lot of I'm trying to think what the heck I was going to say. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. I was going to buy one tomato at the store this week, $2.70, not organic. 25 pounds of tomatoes were $8 at the grocery store. Oh Lord, not here. Wow. We're not near an Amish community. That's what I was trying to say. We are not near an Amish community. So there is no deals. Like Tina at Life in the Piedmont gets some really good deals when she goes up to the Amish community, or other people go to the Amish community. We're not getting those. So it's kind of frustrating, but I also get the production costs for them. I want to go back to Gwen's comment. I bought Roma tomatoes at the grocery store for 88 cents a pound and canned them. They taste just like garden tomatoes when canned, even though they don't when fresh. Yep. We don't even see Roma tomatoes here. We don't even see them. In fact, my friend went to the farmer's market because I helped my friend can last Sunday. She wanted paste tomatoes and couldn't get any. All she could get at the farmer's market was regular tomatoes, and they were super expensive. Yeah, no Amish near us either. We had a gentleman who was Amish and his wife come over to sell starts in the spring. And when we talked to him, it wasn't like there's a store or anything to go to, and it's not that they're selling anything. So we only see them if we are lucky at Leeds Market, but we will get them by the case there. They are definitely past their best, but that's how we can afford them. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Fresh produce doesn't last. Fresh produce that is not treated doesn't last forever. So it's usually past its prime. Can those tomatoes whole. It's how we Italians do it. And then we pull them out to cook them for sauces. That is how we can ours. We either can them whole or we can them quartered. And we do that because then there's more more versatility to us using them, because um we can pull out a jar and use it for sausage, peppers, and onions, and we throw some tomatoes in. We add it to a bunch of different recipes, all that stuff. So I don't bother making sauce until I pull out a jar of canned tomatoes. So, Heather, if you want to freeze dry a whole tomato, you're going to be freeze drying for a week. They say the seeds are the biggest issue because the seeds hold on to the moisture longer. I've frozen slices. I've frozen cherry tomatoes in half, and they've done well, but you have to go a lot longer on the time because of the seeds. Addicted to the pasta sauce at Costco. Huh. Hey, Marcel, little fish in the kitchen. Good to see you. Oh, you need to do more than poke the tomato for freeze drying to keep them from exploding. A whole tomato is it's a lot of wasted electricity, in my opinion. You're better off doing I mean, I'd rather can them than freeze dry them. If I had a bunch and I just wanted some slices, one of the things I've done is when I've canned my tomatoes and I've peeled them, I take all the peels and put them in the freeze dryer and then make tomato powder. That works out really good. Yeah, I would definitely corn slice. The rules for the freeze dryer are really simple. It's just you want to make sure everything is uniformly as close as you can when you put it in there. Seeds take a lot longer, especially the moisture around the seed, the moisture in the seed. So yeah, definitely, definitely. Even blueberries, like people say you have to pierce them. I've never pierced my blueberries, never had an issue, and they dried fine. But the Facebook groups on freeze drying, who are very quick to point out to people when they make a mistake in their opinion, which is why I left, is because they just jump down your throat, and I didn't want to deal with it. The bottom line is any kind of food preservation, you have to be careful, because if you don't do it right, or you don't do it carefully or clean, or if you don't do it fully, right? As in hi Helena M, welcome. For example, blueberries or anything in the freeze dryer, if there's any kind of moisture left in them, it will rot in the package and it's wasted. And it poses a danger to you to eat. Same thing with yeah, exactly. Krista, I'm telling you, exactly. Um, if blueberries are not something that I do often, you can freeze them first. Yep. But their claim is that the seeds and the juice inside, it takes a while. But these are all the same people who were saying that they were running their freeze dryer for like 80 hours. But I get it in a higher humidity climate. But here in a drier climate, my herbs everything takes about 24 hours. Some of it I will run a little extra. It is rare we're running for 2 days. And if we are, it's because it's a new item and I'm kind of like, eh. I will say this, Heather. We got a killer deal on mushrooms. And we washed and sliced them and patted them dry and put them right in the freeze dryer. They are the killer thing to have on hand in the pantry. Better than canned mushrooms. I am not a fan of canned mushrooms. They're slimy. Freeze-dried mushrooms are the bomb. They are looking for something to fight about. I just couldn't stand it anymore. And that's the thing too. People are like, oh, everything has to be frozen first. The machine is also able to freeze, right? And everybody says, oh, well, it lasts longer if you freeze it first. I don't always have the time to to freeze everything before I freeze dry it. Some I will, some I won't. Has anyone dehydrated egg noodles? Gwen wants to know. Yeah, mushrooms are killer. Oh, so good when they're reconstituted. We take them out, throw them right in the gravy for Salisbury steak. Yeah, dehydrated mushrooms are good too. Dehydrated egg noodles. Do you have to dehydrate them? Or can you just let them dry? Like egg noodles, like when you make pasta? I mean, I know it's different from pasta because it's an egg noodle, but can you just let them fully dry? Not dehydrated, but I air dry egg noodles. Heather says she's done cooked rice dehydrated. Really? Huh. That's interesting. You guys are a bunch of rebel dehydrating cannon folks here. Huh. That's interesting. I've seen people dry them just by leaving them lay out, but I just wondered about dehydrating them. It would be faster. Give it a shot. Give it a shot. That's cool. Costco has the best price for mushrooms. Large family packs at $5.99, I think, for white or brown. Interesting. Rochelle buys big bags of dried shiitake mushrooms at the Asian store. Good deal. You do the cooked rice to make Insta REMs. Gotcha. If you're in a humid climate, for sure. It's a Gen X thing. We don't like being told what to do. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Because we were left on our own to do it and to survive. Annette at the Cow Emporium was trying to ask me if I had an Asian store in Rapid City, but I just never get that far. Gwen, that's a good point. I would give it a shot. Google it, Gwen. I would definitely give it a shot. I think that's great, especially with 100% humidity. I know, I bet you are. I bet you are, Rochelle. 2 minutes away. I can't even find egg roll wrappers. Yeah. I feel ya, Xander. I feel ya. We are totally low humidity. Has anyone dehydrated or freeze dried eggs into powder? I have not dehydrated, and the reason why is because I did not have my dehydrator was a rack. It wasn't the solid piece like the mat or the tray. I have freeze dried eggs into scrambled eggs. I made scrambled eggs and freeze dried them and put them up in the pantry. And then I plan on doing raw. A friend of mine does raw. She does about 90 eggs per medium freeze dryer load, which is what our freeze dryer is. And I think it's a tablespoon of water to a tablespoon of powdered raw egg. But you have to then cook it to 180 degrees when you use it in a recipe in order for it to be safe. Mine right now are just scrambled because I thought it would be easy in the winter to have a scrambled eggs ready. I've dehydrated eggs in milk. It's fun. We're humid in summer but dry in winter. Hey, Lisa and folks, would you honestly invest in a freeze dryer again? Yes. For me, yes. I prefer the convenience of not having to stand by it and babysit it. I can set it if I'm busy, I can leave it running, it doesn't boil over. I'm not a fan of canned food. I do it, but some of it I don't like at all. Um, the reason why we're blanching and freezing a lot of vegetables is because we prefer frozen vegetables. And that's for the short term, so I don't feel the need to do long-term food prep with it. However, when we get a deal on mushrooms, onions, garlic, all of that stuff and peppers, we will freeze dry because they're all chopped up, ready to go, and we can throw them in any recipe, which saves us not only money because our local grocery store is a ripoff because of the tourism, but it saves us having to drive 2 hours round trip then to a cheaper grocery store, if that makes sense. Absolutely. I am registering. Let me go back up. Yeah, I prefer frozen. I'm with you, Rochelle. We had canned carrots and canned potatoes, and I was not a fan. Not a fan at all. I am registering our business at the end of the month, and I'm looking at getting a Kickstarter up for 2 freeze dryers for making freeze dried meals for food banks. That's awesome. How would you run them, Blue? Would you do solar on them? As long as you keep an eye on the eggs and make sure you dry them well. You put them in a jar, you don't have to freeze it. Oh, okay, I got what you're saying. I'm contemplating the purchase just to downsize the weight. I would say this, you don't need the large one. I have a medium that has 4 shelves. I think the new medium has a 5 shelf. Look at the different brands though. You don't always have to go with the same brand everybody goes with. And look at all your options, but like I have the medium and the 4 trays work for me. The new medium has 5 trays. You definitely don't need bigger than that. For example, I won't run it unless it's a full load, and so I'm literally going to be doing basil and dill heads tomorrow because I've had to let it grow to make sure I had enough because my basil is not out of control like most people. I've got like 3 or 4 stalks of basil. Dill, I have a ton, so yeah, Gwen, I don't even think I can do the canned carrots and soups and stews. They're like baby food. But that's me. We would have to get a unit to run them in that we could have a commercial kitchen. Gotcha. There is another brand, Rochelle. There's several different brands. I have the Harvest Right. Yep. There are other different brands though. Google what's available in Canada. Definitely. I heard a lot of names on the Facebook freeze drying groups on Facebook. Not that I like those groups, but they do have different names. They have payments. We went to Tractor Supply. Payments are less than the ortho payments we were making. Oh, wow. Interesting. That's really cool. Really, really cool. All right, guys. Well, we are at an hour. I'm going to get going. I hope you enjoyed the conversation about food preservation. Just thought it was a timely thing to talk about. And I think that's really neat. I'm just watching the chat. All right, guys. Well, we are going to get going. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend and stay safe, stay sane, saner than me, as Xander would say. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for being here. We appreciate you so much. And Carla, I will email you that info in a few minutes. Thanks for being here, everybody. See you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.